Hi, Nadya Dickson here with the Master's Program for Women, and we just arrived in Ottawa, the capital of Canada, yesterday after having a whirlwind of a week in Niagara Falls, Canada. You know, this time every year I can be found with my family. We're typically celebrating with a family reunion. And last week we were supposed to conclude our festivities with a wedding. However, there was a turn of events, and an unexpected death of a family member meant that the wedding was preceded by a funeral. Well, the grace of God had it that we were all there to support our family member and to be there for the funeral, to be present. It was enough to take your breath away. And that seemed to be a consistent theme throughout the week as we talked about breathing. You know, last year my husband found out about a book in one of his sessions, session 2, called Breath by James Nestor. And it talked about the importance of nostril breathing versus mouth breathing, which can actually affect your ability to have a boosted immune system, to combat disease, and to have a fuller capacity in your lungs. And it affects the way that you pay attention. So all of these things meant that he went to see a functional practitioner and learned new protocols and exercises that actually helped his oxygen intake. Well, at the funeral, the pastor was talking about the very rhythmic breathing of my great aunt before she passed away. He prayed for her, and later that evening, she took her last breath. And then he also talked about how in Exodus chapter 6, verse 2, God tells Moses his name, and he says Yahweh, except in Hebrew, the vowels are not included. So it's almost breathy, YWWH, almost like intake and exhale. Yahweh, Yahweh. So the first breath that we breathe as babies and the last breath we breathe as we leave this earth, we're speaking the name of God. And in Genesis, when God breathed into Adam, the Hebrew says the ruach of God, or in the Greek it's the pneuma, it's the unseen force, the spirit, the air of God in our lungs. You know, I would say that the last 5 years, all of the experiences and events and the tumultuous affairs of the world have almost constricted our breathing. It's almost like you can barely catch your breath. But we know the breath of life. So if you're struggling to breathe right now, call on his name. And if there are others in your life that are around you that are barely breathing, tell them to say the name and just breathe.